Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am excited to talk to Jason Roberts, and let me tell you a little bit about Jason. He is a charismatic national speaker and peak performance coach who has dedicated his life to studying the formulas for success and implementing these habits to create a massive result in a fraction of the time. Despite growing up in a broken household and being a college dropout, Jason has successfully built up 11 of his own companies, 10 of which generated $1 million in revenue in their first year in business. His personal businesses have brought in well over 100 million in revenue, and he has helped 10,000s of people. That's hard to say, 10,000. He helped a lot of people to grow and scale their businesses in industries and diverse as real estate, investing, medical practices, insurance, constructive companies, and medical spas. Jason is also a world-class business and mindset coach, where true expertise lies in scaling any business in 7 and 8 figures within the first year. He has positively impacted and spoken in front of over 20,000 people all over the country. And he coaches and consults clients from California to Baltimore on how to grow and scale their businesses through developing the correct mindset and fundamental habits. He's successfully hosted hundreds of live and virtual events, as well as facilitated masterminds where some of the most brilliant leaders in the industries collaborate to identify market trends and forecast speculations. Jason is passionate about sharing his knowledge of business and inner workings of the mind with audiences around the world, and he believes that the extraordinary success can be achieved by anyone who is willing to believe in and invest in themselves. So today we're going to talk about mindset and its impact on business growth. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Jason Roberts. Jason.
Thank you for having me, Vicki.
I love your background, and I love that we're going to talk about mindset because, that's where we hear the term, I'm stuck. And it's like, well, where's your mind? Where is that?
That's exactly right.
So as always, we ask you that first simple question: where do you call home?
I live, I split time between 2 places. My home is in St. Louis, but I met a girl a couple years ago, year and a half ago, and she's from Michigan.
A story.
So, yeah, right. So
I met a girl. There we go.
I'm in Michigan right now, and so we kind of split time back in half and half. We stay together, so she comes with me, I go with her, and I'm in Michigan right now.
Awesome. So talk to us about your journey. We gave all these accolades about where you are, who you are, and all those things in terms of a business. But we know that you didn't start out as that person who is this tremendous businessman, guru of mindset. What was that journey like for you from And when did you start to realize that this was your direction and your passion?
Yeah, I thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. I think that it's nice to talk about all the wins, right? And your bio kind of highlights all the good points. What it doesn't cover is all the failures. And I think that it's cool to talk about the success, but I think I've had the successes that I've had because I've just probably screwed up more times than most. I've messed more stuff up, and when you can condition yourself to just take action and make mistakes, I always say the quicker you find the wrong answer is the quicker you find the right answer. But sometimes we get stuck in the middle of the road and we don't choose a direction, then we never know if we're heading the right way or not. So preface it with that. But no, I mean, I grew up in a small farm town. It's called Troy, Missouri. It's about an hour outside of St. Louis, population, probably a couple thousand people. I didn't have like role models growing up. No one in our family was an entrepreneur. No one was a business person. I just didn't see those things. My dad worked for Anheuser-Busch and he was gone 7 days a week. So I didn't really see him. And at 11 or 12, my parents split, he left, and my mom was left to raise, 3 boys by herself. And he didn't help financially, and she was a stay-at-home mom. So I think what really kind of started that entrepreneur mindset kind of on accident was me seeing her struggle. Like her giving, she didn't buy herself clothes, she didn't buy herself a new car, she did nothing for herself. Like she sacrificed everything for me and my 2 brothers. And even at that young age, I felt that was wrong. I felt like this isn't fair. It's not right that she has to do that. And so, even at a young age, I started thinking of things that I could do to make money, to take some of that burden off of her. Some of those things were good, some of them not so good, but that was kind of the mindset behind it. And, I turned 18, I graduated high school. My mom said, you either need to go to college or you need to get a job. And I did both. I enrolled in community college and I got a job. My first job was at a collection agency, and I'm sure some of your listeners have done that job before. That's a different experience.
Tough job.
Super tough job. I mean, you're making 200 to 300 outbound phone calls a day to people that don't want to hear from you. That when they do answer, that conversation usually ends with a lot of curse words and a lot, the supreme level of rejection. You get over your fear of rejection really, really fast when that happens all day, every day. But and the thing was, like, I made $70,000 my first year there. This was in 1998. I mean, this was 25, whatever, however long ago. All my buddies are at Mizzou. They're getting a 4-year degree, and they're hoping that when they graduate someday that they can make half of what I'm already making. And so, without any really guidance or role models or anything else, 18-year-old kid, I say 70 grand a year is better than 40 grand a year. And I don't have any student loan debt. Heck with the college stuff. At the same time, though, I remember that place was an ocean of cubicles. And I remember walking in there every day and thinking to myself, I don't know why God... Yeah, I don't know why God put me on this earth, but it's not this. I saw people that were 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old in these cubes. Like that was their whole life. And I thought, I don't know why I'm here, but this is not my destiny. And there's nothing wrong, with people working at a collection. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying it wasn't for me. Like I didn't want to sign up for 50 more years in a cubicle. And so, and just the whole thing. And my boss, he was friends with a guy who worked with us there, who left and got into the mortgage business. And he made like $100,000 his first year in the mortgage business. His name was Kevin Boshin, super cool guy. And I didn't really think anything of it because that was pretty close to where I was. And then the second year came around, my boss came to me. He's like, "You're never going to believe this. Kevin Boshin's made almost 300 grand." And I'm like, "No way." So we go to lunch and, I'm talking to him and I'm kind of razzing him about, giving him a hard time. And he pulls out his wallet and he throws down his pay stub and it was like 286,000. And this was like October. And it was in that moment that I thought, you know what, helping somebody buy their first house sounds like a whole lot more fun than collecting delinquent Discover card bills. And 300 grand a year is better than 70 or 80 that I'm making. And I got back to the office. I called down to the Missouri Division of Finance and I said, "What does it take to open a mortgage company in Missouri?" And they sent me this big pack in the mail. I spent the next couple of weeks going through it, and there was only a couple of things I didn't have. One was 50,000 in cash, which at 19 years old I certainly didn't have, and the other was $1 million surety bond, which sounded like a big mountain to overcome. I later found out for a couple $1,000 and a 700 credit score, you can get $1 million surety bond. So it was just the 50 grand in cash. So at 19 or 20, when, you know, all my friends and everyone else was probably going out and partying and doing whatever else, I was like herming it down and just stacking all the money that I could, trying not to spend, just trying to get to that $50,000. And
Mm-hmm.
it was April 15th, 2001, 2 weeks after my 21st birthday. That was my first day into entrepreneurship, my last day ever working for someone else. And
Oh, wow.
it's been a pretty wild journey since then. Good and bad, right? But
Yeah.
I don't regret that path at all. You know, we get better at things by doing them. And I think reading is important. I think studying is important. I think events are important. I think all those things are important. But at the end of the day, like, you can read as many books as you want about how to swim, but you don't learn how to swim until you jump in the pool, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that to stay right there for a minute, I think that's so important. I often do podcasts and we talk about embracing failure because, for me, when I went into the business world, I didn't go to college first until I didn't go to college until I was in my late 40s.
Wow.
But we were always taught, avoid failure, avoid failure.
Right.
Don't
That's
talk
right.
about failure. And what I found is I learned my best lessons by just doing something and figuring out as I went, knowing that, okay, I screwed that up. I know not to do that again.
That's right.
And I think that's so important for people to embrace and love.
Totally agree. And we associate so much pain to failure, and as humans, like, subconsciously, we'll move away from pain quicker than we'll move towards pleasure all the time. And I think once you've done it enough times, you realize that didn't really hurt, and actually it was a good thing, because I got to the finish line faster because I screwed up.
Yeah.
And then you start to associate, like, the faster I mess up, the faster I win, and not that you set out to fail, but I don't view it as a failure anymore. I don't view making the wrong turn as a failure anymore. I view it as a step in the right direction, a step to the finish line. And I think there's patterns of focus, that we develop over time, and we associate things to things when we were kids. Failing learning how to ride a bike to a 6-year-old is like crash and cuts, and we associate pain to the failure. But the reality is, you took a little bit of pain, but now you can ride down the street and talk on a cell phone and eat a cheeseburger and ride your bike. So,
well, and I do love that you use the analogy of a child. I often do that. I go a little further back, and it's like, what person do you know that entered kindergarten that doesn't know how to walk, that doesn't know how to eat, that doesn't, and if you watch, I love watching my grandkids as they're growing and progressing, and they try everything. My 5-year-old grandson his brother is 8 and he's going to be 9, and he doesn't think, my 5-year-old grandson does not think that he can't do anything that the 9-year-old can't. He will try everything. And yet at some point in time, we get that, oh, well, as you said, it hurt or something. But, one of the things that I try to do, and the reason I have this podcast, is you got to get that 5-year-old confidence back.
Totally agree.
And I have a button on my desk that says, just do it.
Yep. That's right.
If it doesn't put you in jail or kill you, just do it.
Yeah. I had a mentor early on that said the phrase, "If I can't, I must." And I can't tell you how many times I just absorbed that. And, like, anytime I felt uncertain, anytime I felt fearful, anytime I felt scared, any of that, like, it just conditioned me to turn straight into it right in that moment and confront it. And man, that does something to you over time, and it starts to just peel away that the number one thing that our mind tries to do more than anything else is to keep us exactly between the lines that we're currently in. Like, that's what it's fighting to do constantly. So once you understand that, like, it's going to tell you everything is bad, everything outside of what you normally do, it's going to make you feel fear. It's going to make you feel these things, but it's not really true. You know what I mean? It's like a map that we've created since we were children that isn't necessarily doesn't necessarily, that 5-year-old map doesn't necessarily serve us anymore at 30, 20, 30, 40, 50. And we can rewrite that story. You know, we can teach ourselves to step out of fear.
One of the things I also see oftentimes is people will be in that place where, well, it's not the right time. It's
Yeah.
everything's not aligned. The stars aren't aligned. Someday I'll do that.
Yeah.
And my deal when I retired in 2018 was someday is today. You know, I only have so many more trips around the sun here,
Some more
hopefully
Sundays, yeah.
30, hopefully 30 some, but you know, I need to know that someday is today, and I can't afford to put off for tomorrow. And if people would have that mindset in their 30s and 40s, how rich could their lives be?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So you talk about how most businesses often fail in their first 5 years, and I know, you know, I often in the franchising as part of my career was involved with that, and we usually say, well, in the 3 to 5 years till you see a profit.
Yeah.
It's having that mindset to live through that 3 to 5 years is where I think why some fail, because they can't keep that right mindset. So talk to us about why, in your opinion, do most businesses fail in that first 5 years?
You know, I was on a flight to Phoenix to speak to a big group, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago. And I remember thinking to myself on the way down, like getting ready to land, I was thinking to myself, why am I even doing this? And I'm not that guy. Like, I'm eternally positive all day, every day. And just like, it just came over me of like, why am I even doing this? And my thought was 90+%. I'm going to teach people where there's $1 million worth of gold buried in the next couple hours. And 90+% of them aren't going to go dig it up, or they're going to go there and they're going to kick a couple rocks over and say, oh, I got to dig with a shovel. Never mind. You know what I mean? Like, and it feeds into that. Close to 90% of new businesses fail within the first 5 years. And that was frustrating to me. Like why? Like if I understood why, maybe I could help the other 90% of people and better understand it. So I really kind of started to zero in on, because I'm in front of a lot of people. I see a lot of different businesses. I have a lot of different companies of my own. And just like a doctor or anything else, right? Like you would have to be dumb to not see patterns over time, right? Like, you see things that people are doing that are working, and you see the ones that aren't working. You can see somebody that's overweight and unhealthy, and you can see somebody that's eating healthy and going to the gym every day, and you can see those patterns, and you know that these people are doing these different things. Same in business. And so you start to see that the 10% that are succeeding, that they have a model, they have a blueprint, they have a set that they operate from, and the ones that fail are off kind of on an island by themselves, just kind of doing whatever they think is the right thing to do. And, you know, we think that figuring it out on our own is cheaper and more efficient, but it really never is, right? I mean, it usually costs a lot more money and takes us a lot more time. I think 80% of success in anything is psychological and 20% is mechanics. And we're all out there always seeking the next best set of mechanics to get us somewhere. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the right mechanics to get to the finish line 20 years faster. I'm not discounting that we need those things, but entrepreneurship isn't easy, you know, especially not right off the bat. And your expectations are like, we're conditioned from kids that every other Friday you get this paycheck and it just magically appears in your bank account. And it doesn't really matter if you worked really hard or you worked in the middle or didn't work at all. For the most part, unless you didn't get fired, that check still comes. It's not a pay for performance kind of thing. It's not a paid by the value that you bring per se. You know what I mean? Like the check's the same every other Friday, whether I worked really hard this week or I didn't work hard at all. And entrepreneurship is not like that. You know, like building a business is not like that. We get, in entrepreneurship, we get paid by the value that we bring to the world, and the more value that we can bring, the more we can get paid, and the more lives that we can change, and the more impact that we can have. But anytime I'm working with a business that's struggling or is trying to go from 1 million to 3 million, or from start to their first 500 grand or whatever, one of the first things that I always look at is like the mindset of the entrepreneur and the stories that they have. I can't tell you how many business owners I come across that, you know, number one thing they almost always say to me is, well, you don't understand, Jason. I'm a doctor and the medical business is different. Or you don't understand, Jason. I'm a dentist and the dental different, you don't understand these patients, like they only trust me. And I always say, respectfully, you don't understand. I'm not here to teach you how to be a better dentist. You're right. I know nothing about that. But your problem isn't with being a better dentist. Your problem is scaling your business. Your problem is replacing yourself so that you're not working 80 hours a week anymore and neglecting your wife and your kids and your life, and all the things that matter to you most that you're not spending time with because you're chained to this business that really isn't a business. It's a job, because if it was a business, you would have the freedom, which was the reason why you started the business to begin with, so it always comes back to the mindset part.
Absolutely. So we talked about people that aren't doing it right. What are people that are succeeding doing differently?
Yeah. I think four things. I'd say metrics, model, mindset, mentor, and I'll briefly touch on those. But so many businesses, even 7-figure businesses that I come into, sometimes they don't know their numbers, they don't know their math, and I get that that's not always fun, but just like entry-level metrics, I bought a 94-bed assisted living facility 2.5 years ago. I've never done anything in the medical space. It's in Milwaukee. I live in St. Louis in Michigan. I don't go to work there every day. It's got 50 employees. It's a big company, I mean, it's maybe not big, but decent size. We've got almost 100 patients and 50 employees, and it's a real business. And when we bought it, it had 0 vacancies. It was completely full. And within 4 or 5 months from us buying it, we were down to 10 vacancies, 10 open beds, and Medicaid pays about $4,000 a month per bed. So in a snap of a finger, we're down $40,000 a month in revenue, which is $500,000 a year. At the same time, we started losing some employees. And so we had to use a staffing agency, and we got up to $15,000 a week in staffing costs, additional staffing costs. So if you do that math, that's $100,000 monthly swing.
Yeah.
Because we weren't doing something that I've always done in all of our businesses that I know to do. And that's like, keep track of our numbers, keep track of our metrics. It's a game of math. It's not a chance type of thing. And so like, how many assessments, that's what we do to take in a new patient. So we had to start tracking how many assessments were we doing. Out of the assessments that we're doing, how many do we accept? Out of the ones that we accept, how many accepted us? Out of the ones that accepted us, how many scheduled to move-in date? Out of the ones that scheduled to move-in date, how many actually landed? You know what I mean? And it seems crazy. I mean, we did the same thing on the employee side. How many resumes did we receive this week? Out of the resumes, how many interviews? Out of the interviews, how many hires? Out of the hires, how many actually showed up to work? And I'm not kidding. When we started tracking those things daily, which sounds crazy, I know, but when we started tracking those things daily, within 60 days, we were back to 100% full. We took we made $100,000 positive swing back. And so I just think that is so important, especially for newer businesses. Any business owner is know your numbers, know your math. If we're sending out marketing, how much marketing are we sending out? How much inbound response are we getting? What are we converting from the inbound response? I think I helped a woman from Tucson, Arizona, a handful of years ago. She flew to my office for a week, and she I helped her put together this business. She had sold her CPA firm, and she wanted to do something different. And she went back down to Tucson, and she implemented everything that we taught. And she called me after the first week, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Jason, this is awesome. I got 76 new client phone calls this last week. I couldn't be happier." And I'm like, "Awesome." She paid a lot of money, and I wanted to make sure I delivered for her. Well, she called me a week after that, and she said, "Jason," now she's mad, and she thinks that now she's not happy. And she says, "Not a single one of those 76 people wanted this product." And I instantly knew in that second that the reason why she put herself on the assembly line in a spot where she's not an A player, where she's not her unique genius zone, we use personality profile test. Everybody kind of has a thing that they're good at, right? Like some people are good at sales, some people aren't. Some people are good at accounting, some people aren't. And she put herself in the sales position when she's like a 0 on the I on a personality index. I recognized it in that moment. We ran an ad for an acquisitions person. We put somebody in there, and instantly it was fixed, but she was ready to give up and quit. And so these are the kind, you know what I mean? Just something as simple as the wrong person in the wrong seat to someone that's on an island by themselves. What they gather from that sometimes is, this doesn't work. It doesn't work because I tried. You know what I mean? And the reality is it does work. You just had the wrong person in the wrong place.
Yep. I totally understand that. So you gave us that first pillar.
Yeah.
What's the second one?
Model. And what I mean by that is I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs go out and just try to recreate the wheel on their own. They try to, you know what I mean? They just try to start from scratch. And I got lucky on accident. And so I learned this key early on, and that was I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room.
Awesome.
I've got to find the smartest guy in the room and copy off his homework. You know what I mean? Like in a non-bad way, but like find somebody that's already achieving the result that I want to achieve and model what they do. You know what I mean? Like model what they do. And sorry, my dog is under the table.
I was just wondering if you had a
the
dog.
camera over every second. I was trying not to make it obvious, but anyway. But model what they do. You know, I went to this event in my early 20s when I first started the mortgage company because I realized like I need to find somebody that's already getting the result that I want to get. And I found this man named Greg Frost, who anybody in the mortgage business knows him. He was my first mentor. He was my first, and he sold this course and it had all his different departments. And I brought him back and I just modeled. The guy had done $1 billion in home loans. I had done 100 grand or whatever, you know? So clearly, if I were just to copy the process that he has figured out over 40 years, I'm going to be 10 years ahead of where I am right now, trying to figure this out on my own at a minimum, right? Maybe 40 years ahead. So model, you know, if you want to be a national championship bodybuilder, find somebody. You can read all the books you want and you can study go to all the seminars, and all that is good. But find the guy who just won last year or won a couple years ago and eat what he eats and lift what he lifts and model what he does throughout the day. We make this so much harder than it is. One of the very first things I do anytime I start a new company, first thing I did when we put that assisted living facility under contract, I knew that I didn't know what I didn't know. First thing I did before we ever even closed on it, before we even ever made $1, I found a mentor. I found a guy that had 4,000 Medicaid beds in his business, and I hired him to spend a couple hours with me and say, help me understand what I don't know. Show me what I'm not seeing here. I understand business, but I don't know this business specifically. And there was one thing that he shared with me that I would have never known. I don't know how long it would have taken me to figure out. One thing that he shared with me that generated almost $100,000 a month in additional income right off the bat. And that was Medicaid billing rates are negotiable. So my house here, you own a house here and I own a house here. They're identical clone houses. We each have 8 residents, but Medicaid's paying you $3,800 a bed and it's paying me $3,100 a bed for the exact same thing. That it makes no sense, right? Like, why is that even a thing? But it was. And so when we put the place under contract, we were getting a little over $3,086 a bed, I think. And by the time we closed, just in the time we put it under contract to the time we closed, we renegotiated that to $3,875, which times 94 beds almost was another $100,000 a month. So like, how much did that mentor really cost me? It didn't cost me anything. It made me $1 million in my first year, you know? And so I'm not here to sell coaching. I'm here to help people understand, like, find someone that's getting the result that you're trying to get, that's already done it, that's 20 years ahead of you, and align yourself with them, surround yourself with them.
And I think that's an important point to make out, because, you know, a lot of us were in business a long time. And we think, you know, I've been there, done that. I have the t-shirt. I can start my business. I know what to do. But it's really, if you think about it, you had hopefully mentors throughout your career that you could go to. You could, you know, run things by, ask questions. And why would it be any different now as you own your own business?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're in corporate America, you're right. You've got bosses, you've got managers, you got all kinds of mentorship. You got all just at the drop of a dime. But as soon as we walk out of that structured environment, we're on an island by ourselves, and there is no one else. There is no accountability. There is no one that says if this doesn't get done by Friday, you know what I mean? So that's why that mastermind group, surrounding yourself with people that are going the same direction. I mean, 76% of America lives paycheck to paycheck, regardless of income level. Like, those, if that's our circle that we're hanging out with, that's the mindset that we're going to adopt. And that's not, that's the 90% that fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know, it's really important to understand that, that's why I started this podcast. It really wasn't so that I could have my name. I didn't think of myself as that person that loves podcasting, but
Sure.
it was, I knew that I needed mentors and coaches and things, but I didn't know where to start. And then I thought, well, let me just start bringing them on my podcast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
while I'm helping my audience, but I'm also learning continually every day. I mean, I do 6 to 10 podcasts a week. So I am constantly in
That's
that
awesome.
development and learning stage. And I think that's important for everybody that's listening to remember that you should not ever be alone, that there are people all around the world that can help you, just like Jason.
Absolutely. There's all kinds of resources out there. We just got to seek them out. And please, I can tell you one thing for sure, that 90% of the businesses fail. The mindset is here, and the 10% that win. The 10% that win, find somebody that's already winning at the game they're getting ready to go play first, and bring them into that mix before the race ever starts. People, the 90% that fail, they say, once I start to have some success, once I start to make some money, then I'll invest in myself, then I'll hire a coach, or then I'll join a group, or then, you know what I mean? That's almost a surefire recipe to lose. It's like saying, I'm going to load my whole family and my kids into a car pre-cell phone and try to drive from Mexico to Canada. And if I get lost and run off the road in the middle of a desert and run out of gas, then I'll go get a map. Like, you know what I mean? It's the exact same thing, but like I've done it before. We all do it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you say, like, don't do that. If you can't afford, if you can't figure out how to put yourself in a environment where there's already other people that are succeeding, maybe it's not time to open the business yet.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you don't jump. I'm saying that jump with the parachute that you checked,
Good idea. So we have metrics, we have model. What's the next one?
I said mindset. We kind of talked about mindset a little bit already, but your state, the number. I've read as many autobiographies since the time I was 18 as I could of successful people that I wanted to model. And one of the things that I found, like the top 1% of income earners in the entire world had in common, was the ability to manage their own state. And what I mean by that is like the psychological place that we live. Like, are you showing up at a 5 energy level? Are you showing up at a 10? Are you showing up at a 7? Are you showing up at 8? And that, being able to control your state, I believe has a bigger impact on your income, has a bigger impact on your business success, has a bigger impact on the lives that you're able to change more than anything else in the world. And there's 3 things that control our state. Number 1 is what we focus. What do we focus on? Our pattern of focus, right? Like what do we focus on? And then number 2 is, what is the meaning that we give it? And this is what I really want people to zone in on, is you get to assign the meaning to anything that happens to you. If somebody cuts you off in traffic and flips you off and almost runs you off the road, you can assign a meaning of, I'm mad, I'm pissed, I want to lash back out, I want to road rage or whatever. Or you can assign a meaning of, oh my gosh, that person must be rushing to the hospital because they're about to lose a loved one, or so. and you know what I mean? Like, you don't know, but you're assigning a meaning to it, but you get to choose no matter what happens. And I can't tell you how many stories of, like, I watched this Oprah interview, I'll make this quick, where she interviewed these 2 twin brothers. One was lifetime in prison. One was a multimillionaire with a beautiful family and everything else. And she asked them both the same question. I'm giving you an abbreviated version of this, but she asked them both the same question at the end. And she said, if there was one thing that you would attribute to your entire life in prison, if there's one thing that you would attribute to your beautiful success that you've had to the 2 twins, what would it be? And they both gave the exact same answer. And that was, our dad was an alcoholic. He was verbally and emotionally and physically abusive. He beat the crap out of us. He beat my mom. And they both gave the exact same answer. But the one brother gave it a meaning of, I'm a product of my environment. I'm going to use this as an excuse to be in and out of prison my whole entire life. The other brother gave it a meaning of, I'm going to make sure that I never live like this ever again. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it good. You know what I mean? So 2 people saw the exact same movie, but gave it completely different meanings. And that meaning that you give it shapes your entire destiny. And then number 3 is the action that you take. The action that you take because of the meaning that you gave what you focused on. If I can if I can help people in any capacity to hone those things in, you can change the trajectory of anything that you've got going on in your life.
Yeah. And that's so very true. You know, for me, I came from a large family. We had 4 brothers and three of us sisters, so 7 of us. My mom never worked until I was in high school, and then she had
Yeah.
a really low-paying job. And so when I got married at 21, I was like, I will never not contribute to
Yeah.
this family.
Yep.
And my work ethic, my dad had 3 jobs. And so my work ethic was, well, you know, I need to do all I can to be supportive of this family. And that changed the trajectory of me and what I was able to accomplish. So
Of course it did. Yeah.
absolutely, I could have taken it in a different direction and been, oh, you know, my husband's got a job and I don't need to do anything but raise my kids. Well,
That's right.
no, it's very interesting.
Super interesting.
So I love, you talked about the state. What all controls a state beyond what we just talked about?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's 3 ways to manage it, you know, I guess, like, cause everybody says, well, how do you stay at a 10 super happy all the, you know,
Yeah,
like time, how does that work? And I touched on it a little bit, but there's 3 things I want you to pay attention to. Your patterns of physiology, which is just your body, you know, like think about when you're stressed out, when you're upset, when you're in a negative space. How is your physiology shows up? Well, your shoulders are probably slumped over, your head's probably down, you know, you breathe shallow. What I will say is that your physiology can control how you feel, not how you feel controls your physiology. And so if you're finding yourself in a pattern like this, we learned this backwards, but if you find yourself in a place where you're not feeling good, change your physiology, break that pattern, break the pattern fast, break it instantly, stand up and walk around. It'll change the way that you're feeling. So number 1 is your pattern of physiology. Number 2 is your patterns of focus. You have the subconscious mind has 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. 90% of them are the same thoughts that we had yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. So it's a program that's running, whether you consciously realize it or not. And the program probably isn't really good. It's a program that says, watch out for this, watch out for this, watch out for this. And it tries to keep you, like I said earlier, it tries to keep you in between these 2 lines where it deems safe. Only problem with that is that, like, life begins on the other side of our comfort zone. Like nothing, no growth. If we're not growing, we're dying, you know, if no growth happens inside that comfort zone. And so we've got to condition ourselves. We've got to shift our patterns of focus. Where are you focusing? Are you focusing on scarcity? Are you focusing on not having enough money? Are you focused on worry? Or are you focusing on abundance and overcoming? And like, that is a trained habit. We can control this. And the third thing is patterns of language. You know, I run a really cool mastermind group with some really top end people, and this pattern of language thing shows up. I can't tell you how many times that I'm not trying to correct people, but I'm. Did you hear what you just said? You know, I don't have the energy to hire any more people. If that's the story that you're beating into your subconscious, that is I don't mean to sound woo-woo, but I'm just telling you from seeing thousands and thousands of businesses, we tell ourselves, or you know, our marketing is just not working the same way that it used to work before. I had a client that's super successful, and he says, you know, our marketing is just not working the way that it used to before. And I'm trained to this now, so I understand that what they say is reality is just their map of what they from their past. It's not necessarily really reality. And so when someone says to me, our marketing just isn't working like it used to anymore, my first question is the marketing really not working like it used to anymore? Or do you believe it's not working the way that it used to anymore, and so therefore it's not? You know, right? Because nobody ever ran the 4-minute mile until the one guy did. And then once he did, 20 other people did in the next year, but it never in history had anybody done it. Why? Because nobody believed that they could, so they never really tried. Same thing happens conversely, right? If we believe our marketing is not working, then we're going to show up in a way where we're not converting it in the same way. We're not holding our salespeople accountable. We're even if we're shifting our energy by 10% in that direction, it's gonna affect numbers. So Very rarely. I mean, sometimes we need to fix some things, but very rarely is it something in the business that needs to be fixed. More often, it is me working with the mindset of the entrepreneur and saying, okay, I want you to approach this like your marketing is working better than it ever has. And we're going to crush our goals. We're going to crush our sales goals. This next 30 days, we're going to do better than we've ever done. I want you to show up with that mindset and that belief system, because we show up based on what we believe, and we have all these beliefs, right, that we think are real, but belief is really nothing more than something that we've told ourselves over and over and over to the point that we believe it. It doesn't mean it's really true. We think it's true, but it doesn't mean that it really is. And so we can reprogram those things. We can shift our beliefs. We can shift our identity to be what we want it to be. You know, nobody struggles to lose 20 pounds because they don't know how. I mean, there's 1,000 different diets. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know calorie deficit equals weight loss, but we struggle with it, right? Why? It's not because we don't know how. It's because we identify with the person that we're looking at in the mirror instead of the person that's 20 pounds lighter. If you can learn to shift your identity to be the person that's 20 pounds lighter, then you'll make decisions from that place, and it will automatically happen. That makes sense. I know I'm giving an abbreviated version of that, but I
definitely, absolutely makes sense. So we talked about mindset too, but you know, there are people that feed that mindset, as we talked about earlier, and you know, who you bring to the table is really impactful. And some of the folks that are sitting maybe around your table today in an analogy, but not necessarily, maybe sometimes in the real life table, are not helpful. They're not feeding you in the positive way. They are really ones that are feeding that negativity, that mindset of failure, that mindset of worry, risk, and all. So talk to us a little bit about the people that you hire, as well as that you surround yourself with as friends.
That's a good one. I had a mentor early on 20 years ago, something that I heard him say: stand guard at the gate of your mind. And I can't tell you, like, that's a hard thing to do. It was a hard thing in my early 20s to, I don't know if turn my back is the right word, because that's how it felt. That's how it felt to me. Like, turn my back on pretty much my entire friend circle because I went from growing up in this farm town, not really doing anything good per se, to 21 years old owning a company where the majority of the employees were my parents' age. You know what I mean? And so, like, and I got to put a shirt and tie and a suit on it, like, and my friends are drinking and whatever, and going to bars every night and coming home at 3. Like, I had to make a choice because you can't do both of those successfully for very long. Maybe for a couple of days, but you can only stay up till 4 a.m. drinking. You know what I mean, or whatever it is, right? Or just take the alcohol out of it. Just the mindset of I'm going to college and hanging. Like, my life, I had to make different decisions, and so I had to, what I felt like was, maybe I outgrew them, or maybe I grew faster at that point in time, or whatever it was. But you have to surround yourself with people who are going in the same direction. You know, like I said, 76% of America lives paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because it's I don't necessarily love the word sheep, but like, we're doing what the people around us are doing because we think that's what the right thing is to do. And then one day I wake up and I see all these multimillionaires that are working 10 or 20 hours a week in a business that they created. They're not slaves. They're doing it. And I'm like, wait a second, this exists? I mean, like, you're done at work at 2:00 and you go to your kids' games and you take your wife on date night and you do, you know what I mean? You do all these things that has been non-existent in my entrepreneur life for the first 12 years. You know what I mean? But that circle, Vicki, that you described, like, the people that you're hanging out with, like, that becomes your world, and it becomes like, even subconsciously, you absorb that as like, this is it. Most of the time it's not it. And when your mind starts to see things in a different way, when you start to view what's possible outside of that loop, I don't think there's not much more important that you can do. It's magical. Yeah, absolutely.
It's magical. And, you know, it's just one of those things that, it's one of the things I talk about is my anti-aging and wellness business and self-care, and really it having that right mindset and that drive, like for me in my late 60s is what gives me purpose. And purpose gives us that youth, that vitality that makes us still interesting, still have a reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people think, well, you're crazy, though. You should be sitting on the beach or whatever every day. And it's like, but no, helping others is really what drives me. And being surrounded by people like you gives me that affirmation that this is what I'm meant to do. And that keeps my mindset where it needs to be.
Well, if we're not growing, we're dying, right? And
Yeah,
like there's nothing wrong with the beach. I love the beach too,
I do.
but if I'm just sitting there mindlessly every single day and not growing, not pushing forward, that there becomes a lack of fulfillment, and
Yeah,
all the money in the world doesn't bring fulfillment. I mean, money's good. I like money just like anybody else does, but I think money is just a magnifying glass for the place that you're emotionally living in right now.
yeah,
There's our history is plagued with ultra financially successful people that committed suicide or ended their lives because they were lacking the fulfillment. They were lacking feeling like they were making a difference or growing. So that's so important.
All right. Well, it is time now for me to share my screen. You and I could
Sure.
probably talk for days on this
I
subject.
love it.
It's just been so wonderful, and I really think that it's helpful, and hopefully people will listen to this a couple times to see what you can glean off that you didn't maybe the first time,
You bet.
because there are so many rich tips and advice in this segment. So I'm going to share my screen now with the content of where to get in touch with Jason. So his website, for those that are just listening, and that if you don't have a paper and pencil, you can always get this information on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. It's Vicki Noethling, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com. But his website is his name, so thank him for that. Jason.tv, Jason.tv. And his Facebook and his Instagram is Coach Jason Roberts. So jasonroberts.tv or Coach Jason Roberts is the Facebook and Instagram handles. I'm going to turn it over to Jason to talk to you about the call to action that he has for you all today and some offerings. So Jason, go ahead.
So I have a really cool, I want everybody to go here and do this. It's completely free. You don't have to pay for it. I'm going to give you a coupon code. It's something we sell on our website for $1,000, and it's totally free to all of your listeners. And that is, I have a 16-week training that's fairly expensive that I bring entrepreneurs through that totally want to shift their mindset, rewire their identity. Somebody that wants to go from 1 million to 3 million, we have to change our mindset. We have to change our beliefs. We have to change all those things first. And so we have a program to do that. But I realized there was a whole lot of people that we weren't serving that couldn't necessarily afford to go through something like intensive as 16 weeks. So we condensed it down into about 3 hours. And like I said, it sells for $1,000 on our website. It's completely free. If you go to www.ultimatesuccessblueprint.com, ultimatesuccessblueprint.com, and type in the word freedom as a code, as coupon code, it will discount it from 1,000 to completely free. It's my gift to you guys. Start there. There's, whether you're super experienced in business or you're just getting started, it's not just woo-woo mindset stuff. It's not that at all. It's real active things that we can do in our daily life to shift our focus, to shift our beliefs, to shift our energy, our state, to keep us in a better place. When you're at a 10 and you show up at a 10 in your business, you make different decisions and you get different results than if you show up at a 5. And if I could just help you spend more time, an hour a day more at a 10, things can astronomically go in a better way really, really fast. So that's my gift to you guys. I hope we made a difference today. I think we did.
Awesome. So Jason, it's just been really wonderful chatting with you. I had learned a lot myself. And as you said, if you don't keep learning, you're going to die. So, got to grow to be able to make a difference.
Absolutely.
As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.